I never saw a sprint car till I was 13, 14 years old. So me knowing the history and learning the history, when I raced micros, we played the outlaw game, driving up the road all the time. So I knew, those guys, but I didn't know anybody else. You know what I mean? Like I didn't grow up watching the sport. It was also new to me. And
Green flag in the air.
Hey gang, welcome back to Hot Lap with Landman. I know I took a couple week hiatus there. That first week I didn't get a show out there. I was out at Eldora for the Joker's Jackpot and the King's Royal, all that stuff. Busy week out there. Some of you might know, some might not know, but I drive a rig out to some of the bigger races for one of the guys out there, and then I had to get that back out here. So a long drive out to Eldora and then back. Last week I had to get caught up after being gone a week. One of my boys races also, so I wanted to get caught up on some of that stuff. So here we are, we're back finally, and we've got a great guest. We're able, like I said, we took a couple weeks off, but this one's worth waiting for. He's won the Knoxville Nationals. He is the current World of Outlaw point champ. He is the current World of Outlaw point leader for 2025. He's won the Williams Grove National Open a couple different times. And of course, I'm talking about David Gravel. David is nice enough to sit in with us. I got a hold of him the other day and said he'd be more than happy to come on the show. So we're going to get him in here just real quick. I just want to let everybody know, hey, I'm still looking for those likes. I'm looking for those subscriptions, looking for the follows, the shares, all that stuff. Appreciate it if you could do that. That helps me get more content to you folks, which is what I'm really all about, is making sure I can give you guys quality info and people to visit with week in and week out. So if you like what I'm doing, hit that share button, hit that like button. Subscribe button is big for me too. So like I always say, let's not wait around any longer. Let's get David in here and see what's going on in his world right now. All right, everybody. And like I said, we're going to visit with David Gravel this week. And David, thanks so much for coming in and joining me with Hot Lapping with Landman. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing. I know you had a big, supposedly 3-day weekend last weekend, but you only got one night in. But what are you doing during the week right now? Kind of where are you hanging out at?
Yeah, Weedsport, New York is about 4 hours away from where I grew up in Watertown, Connecticut. And pretty much my whole family was here, my parents, my one sister. So after the races, I rode home with them to Connecticut and spending a couple days here. And Thursday, we fly out to St. Louis to go to the Ironman.
Yeah. And, good way to cap off the weekend, too. I want to tell you congrats on your guys' win over at Weedsport the other night. Pretty dominating performance. But if I were to sum up your guys' season in a nutshell between the big game Motorsports, David Gravel, Cody Jacobs, Todd Quiring, and the rest of the guys, you guys have been pretty much lights out all year. And it's had been a fun year so far.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see the hard work from all the guys at the shop and building this team up and me maturing as a race car driver. When we got our butts whooped every year by Donnie Schatz and you saw what his average finish was, and one year I won 18 races in one season and I ran third in the points and it was like, all right, my average finish was like 6 and his was like 3. I was like, man, how do you get there? You got to limit your bad nights and minimal DNFs and things like that. And to just mold your craft to get to that level, it's very rewarding. And, I've been with Big Game, I believe, for 5 years now. And we just try to keep getting better and better every year.
Yeah, and I'd say you guys have mastered that pretty much right now. So we're going to continue a little bit more talk about it as we get into it. But what I usually like to do with most of my guests, if they're obviously race car drivers, tell us a little bit. You didn't obviously get to where you're at without, starting somewhere. Everybody's got to have that ground zero, that level starting spot. Talk a little bit about how you got into the racing game, how, what caught your interest. Maybe it was, how you got involved in the sport to start with.
Yeah. I grew up in Connecticut, and there's really been, I don't think, in the history of sprint car racing, really anybody with any relevance to sprint car racing from Connecticut. So it was a unique path. we were big NASCAR fans growing up. My dad had about every diecast of NASCAR you can imagine on my. It was pretty much my wallpaper in my bedroom, and we had these clear cases mounted on the wall, and I had cars everywhere, and cardboard cutouts and airplanes and everything you can imagine NASCAR. So we grew up going to NASCAR races, Loudon, Dover, places like that, and yeah, from there, my dad owned a body shop, and we were just around cars my whole life. And I guess as a small kid, I would ride everything in circles. If it was my big wheel bicycle, I guess whatever it was, I rode it in circles. And yeah, there was a guy that knew my dad pretty well, and he had a quarter midget, and he wanted $1,500 for it. And my dad asked me one day, I was about 5 years old, 5 and a half, if I wanted to do it. And I said, yeah. And my dad couldn't afford that $1,500 car at that moment. He had to make payments on it. And from there, we started in 1999.
So, talk about what you remember for your first ever racing experience, even as a 5.5 year old, which obviously you don't understand the concept of what you're doing to an extent. You're going out there and having fun, but tell us a little bit about that, and then moving forward a little bit as a child.
Yeah, it's hard for me to remember that long ago. And I know we started off, it started off pretty serious. We had crew shirts. Like my dad made sure everything always looked good and we looked professional. And I won my first race in novice and quarter midget racing. And I can't say I remember those days exactly, but quarter midget racing was so fun for kids. You made so many friends. We traveled a lot, met so many different people across the country, played a lot of football, a lot of wiffle ball, a lot of video games, a lot of going to local go-kart tracks that were nearby and going to Texas Roadhouse and just causing havoc. It was just a lot of fun, quarter midget racing with the families. But, we took it serious. It was my uncle was my crew chief for a lot of my career till we got into 410 racing. And, he was a tough coach, crew chief. We took it serious and we were expected to win. So from a pretty young age, we took it serious. And, I feel like it's molded me to where I am today.
When you say he was a tough coach or mentor or whatever you say, does that mean sometimes he was hard on you? Because as kids always want to play, they want to joke around, but you've got to have somebody that says, "Hey, listen, we're here to win the race."
Yeah, for sure. My dad spent a lot of his money and sacrificed a lot of his future doing what we were doing. And Earl sacrificed a lot of his time after work on these race cars, and he was really good at it. And yeah, we were expected to win, and we wanted to win. And if we didn't, we figured out why we couldn't win or what I did wrong to cause that. So, yeah, I've always been competitive my whole life, no matter if it's playing basketball or football or wiffle ball or a video game or racing. It doesn't matter. I've always been competitive, so that's been instilled in me, and yeah, it still is today.
So I was doing a little homework on you. I got to do that so I act like I know what I'm talking about anyway. But they said after you went to the quarter midgets, you moved up to some micro sprints. And tell us a little bit about first moving up. Obviously, a lot more power for and I don't know what age bracket you were when you did that, but obviously that you're progressing and moving forward in your racing career with the micro sprint.
Yeah, so that was a difficult decision for us because quarter midget racing we did all on pavement, and pretty much pavement racing was all there was around us. So I ran 1999 to 2004. I ran a few races in 2005 in a quarter midget, but that was where we were at a crossroads. We have Stafford Motor Speedway, Waterford Speed Bowl, and Thompson Speedway in Connecticut, all pavement tracks. Pretty well known for SK Modifieds and the Northeast Modifieds. So we actually had a sponsor, IGA Foods, Bazzuto's, who's a distributor for IGA Foods in this region, bought us two legend cars. They were 10 grand, bought us two legend cars. My dad bought us a 270 micro sprint, which those aren't very popular nationwide, but in Pennsylvania they're popular. They have the two stroke with the big pipe on the side, and you got to shift 4 times a lap. So we entered that year 2005 wanting to try both and see what was going to work. We raced Wednesdays with the Legends at Waterford, and Saturdays we had a little track called Whip City Speedway in Massachusetts, which was only about an hour and a half from us, and now it's now closed. It was right next to an airport and got shut down. So we did both of those. We learned fast. We really liked the micro racing over the legend car racing, and we were better at it. It seemed like we were more welcomed. We had good equipment in the Legends, and we were just like off the pace. So we knew we were missing something. If these guys were cheating their tires or whatever it was like, man, I feel like we have a way better opportunity in the dirt racing. So we did the dirt racing for a year in the 250 rookie class. The following season, we got in the 270. And then we got a 600. Ray Capella from JRC Transportation bought us a 600. He said, how could you fasten, make the learning curve happen faster? So a lot of nights we ran double duty. We ran the 270 and the 600.
How
And
old were you? How old were you about this time?
so I was probably about 13, I believe, 13 or 14. And was able to, dabble in the 600s that year in 2005. And then 2006, we entered the season taking 600 seriously. We just were doing 600s, had some races under our belt, and we started traveling to Pennsylvania weekly. So I was in high school at the time. We would have the truck and trailers sitting on the side of the highway. My mom would pick me up at noon so I could do like about a half a day. And she dropped me off at the truck and trailer, and we hauled ass to Linda's Speedway, which is not terribly far from Williams Grove and Lincoln. And we got there just in time around 5:30. Would race Linda's on Friday, which had a great field of cars. Back then we had Brock Zierfoss, Brent Marks, Alex and Brendan Bright, the two Bright brothers. And then we had this local guy, Mike Rutherford. He would win 20 plus races every year. He was very, very good. So we had a great field of cars every week on Friday. And then Saturday, we'd kind of pick and choose where we would race. There's a lot of tracks in Pennsylvania, Hill Valley, Greenwood Valley, Trailways, Lanco. And we just kind of popped around whatever the bigger races were, and we kind of committed to that for a full season. And then after that year, we entered in the sprint car ranks that following year.
I want to just reiterate or jump back on a quick question. When you were racing against Marks and Brent and Zerfoss and those guys, was there only one age class then, or was it a kids class, or was it everybody showed up? It was adults, everybody in, and have at it, boys.
Yep. So it was, before how micros are now, there was no non-wing did not exist in Pennsylvania, and there was no open class, A class, this class. It was PA rules. It was a stock sealed engine, and there was no junior class, none of this. So, we were 13, 14, 15 years old, and, there's 30, 40-year-old guys racing with us. And, yeah, it was very competitive, and we did pretty well. We won a decent amount of races, but didn't contend for a championship. But I felt like we were very competitive.
And so then I see that 2008, and if I miss anything in between, feel free to jump in and let me know. But 2008, you guys break out with a sprint car. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And so tell me a little bit about that first experience with the sprint car. What garnered your interest into moving up, how it all went down? And I think it was the URC class, right? Which is are those 358s or 360s?
So they are 360s. They're pretty much the same thing as ASCS, really. Um, they kind of adopted the rules. We actually had some 358, 360 challenge races where back then the 358s would run their goofy wings and we would run our normal wings. Our wing was an advantage, but their engine was an advantage over us. So they did that. But yeah, 2008, it was a little bit of an eye opener for us. It was all of my family crew. And, along the way, our family people never worked on these types of cars, even micros, but I felt like it was a little bit more manageable. And then we went to the sprint cars, and we didn't do it in the start of the season. So we did about 3/4 of the season URC. It was kind of complicated because there was age limits and requirements for everything. Initially, we were supposed to race the PA 305 series. That was our goal. we needed to get approved and talk to the 305 people to approve us to race with their series. We tried to meet up with the people back in the day at Lincoln Speedway, and it just didn't happen. I don't know if they didn't want to meet up with us, didn't approve of us, or whatever. So we kind of got like shunned out of it. So we sold that engine and we bought a 360, a Donat 360, and I was 15 at the time, but needed to be 16. And in New Jersey, you had to be 17. So miraculously, I got a year older and was able to race with you.
Miraculously, how that works, isn't it? It's just crazy how that works.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
had a couple other guys that have had that magic happen to them too, so you're not the first one.
So yeah, I got a year older somehow and was able to race with URC. I missed a couple races. Our first ever race, and me in a sprint car. We never practiced. We never tested. Was Williams Grove. We, we yeah, we showed up to Williams Grove. Cross-eyed, naive, not knowing what the hell's going on. We started the car in Connecticut. It started up fine. We show up to Williams Grove, and somehow we throw the drive line out of it and heat the motor. Start this thing up, and it threw the drive shaft out. Like we don't know how the hell that happened. Adrian Schaefer, who has worked for DMI for a long time, he jumped in and helped us rip the rear end out and fix it. And I honestly don't even remember if the lower shaft blew out of the rear end or if the drive shaft failed or the coupler. I don't know what happened, but we needed drive shaft, torque tube, all that replaced. So didn't make any laps, fixed it. We went out for like a B main or C main, and the throttle linkage fell out in like lap 4. So my whole first career night, I did like 4 laps. It was not good. So it was a 2-day weekend. Next night we went to Lincoln Speedway. Got through hot laps pretty good. I think I had the rookie tape on the car, so I had to start dead last in the heat race. And Lincoln is real tight in 1 and 2, and everybody's slowed down. And I'm like, man, why these guys all slow down? I'm going to drive right around these guys. And I went 3 wide to the outside, smoked the fence first lap of the heat race, and bent the front rack. And that was the end of our night. So my first career weekend did about 8 laps and had a bent race car. So that was a big learning experience.
Yeah, about $1,000 a lap in repairs if you add it up real quick, probably, huh?
Yeah, not ideal.
So you get that out of your system. I'm assuming you obviously fix a race car. Probably need some more rear end parts and some other stuff like that. You know where to get that now. So as that season progressed, tell me a little bit about the progress as a driver and a team that you guys made.
Yeah, so I felt like we had pretty good equipment, but we were very naive and didn't know really what was going on. But I felt like a couple races in, we got pretty competitive and had some top 10s and started running for top 5s. And I think it was about my 8th race, I believe. We won at Big Diamond, and they went and teched our car. And I'm pretty sure the story, I was young at the time, but we had our stacks and base plate from our 305, and that's what we ran in our 360. And you needed to have a 1/16 of an inch restrictor inside your stacks. And when they teched our car, we did not have those restrictors in the stacks, so they disqualified us and stripped me of the win. And that obviously was a bummer. It was something that we knew nothing about. We weren't trying to mess with that at all. And then the next week we went to we went to Grandview, and I led. I don't know if I started on the pole, but maybe I did. I led every lap to the last lap, last corner, and Dave Ely, who owns DMI, passed me on the last lap, last corner, stole the win from me. So it was like won my first race, disqualified. Next week, heartbreak.
Yeah.
So that was tough. Mentally, all those things were tough. Obviously, us being new kids on the block, being from Connecticut, um, you know, probably people didn't like us, thought we were cheaters or this or that. And we finally got our first win at Delaware. I think it was called US 36 Raceway, I believe, or the Outlaws used to go there years ago. But we got our first win, first and only win at Delaware. And I was the youngest winner in the history of the series. And actually, URC isn't the oldest sprint car series in America. It's older than the All Stars and it's older than the World of Outlaws.
That's yeah, and I know they've been around a long time. And is that the same year that you were the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame 360 Sprint Car Rookie of the Year? Or
Yes,
was
sir.
that okay?
Yep.
Yep. So I had that in my notes too. So that was that in 2008 then.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So you guys have got this. You got yourself a win. You've got DQ'd. You know, you've knocked the front rack out of it. You've got all that stuff out of it, and you're like, okay, so what happens in 2009? I'm pretty sure I know, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, the real story is, and this is no BS. So we're from Connecticut. Lebanon Valley is pretty close to us, and about an hour and a half from where we are in Connecticut. So we went to the World of Outlaw show with our 360. And back then, when they ran, they didn't really get a full field of cars. So we went to, we went to Lebanon Valley with our 360, and I thought did pretty decent. We stayed on the lead lap. And I remember seeing Craig Delansky the whole time. I was on the same straightaway as him. I know I could flat foot a 360 around there, and those guys kind of had to lift a little bit because Lebanon Valley was sketchy. But the braking, the turning point for us there was Ray Capella from JRC Transportation was there, and we raced somewhere the night before and drove. We were in a URC race and drove to Lebanon Valley. I think they maybe raced on a Sunday, if I remember right. And we had to run American Racers with URC, and then we had to run, I believe at the time, Hoosiers with the World of Outlaws. And we had shit dismounted, and getting stuff ready, this and that. And we were parked next to Donnie Schatz, TSR, and Bob Curtis was working there at the time. And he goes, what is this, a effing swap meet over here? And and the JRC transportation guy didn't like that. He didn't like, that we were getting called lesser. And at the time, obviously we were nobodies, and we were, probably not that organized and all that. Well, that moment and us being somewhat competitive that night, at least keeping up with the guys, not passing 410s. You're never going to do that with
Yeah.
360, but we kept up. Like, I felt we were the fastest 360 there, fastest local guy there, and showed that we could at least have speed. And, that off season, Ray Capella, and I don't even know how he handled it, because he handled it all by himself. Is he found that trailer of Chuck Swenson's, the number X bright yellow trailer, and he
Yep.
found this truck somewhere. I don't know where he found the truck, but the truck had the flames on it already. And then we got the trailer. Somehow he got hooked up with Brian Kemanaugh at Kistler Racing Products, and he bought 2 cars from Kistler. He bought 2 engines from them, and these cars showed up wrapped with engines in them, plumbed, seats, ready to race. They showed up in Connecticut. So Ray made this investment of buying all this stuff, and we were going 410 racing. And
did you know this was coming, or was this kind of a caught off guard kind of deal? Because what an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my dad has a business, and he does well, but he's nowhere near rich or wealthy. So we would have never been able to take this leap if it wasn't for Ray and JRC to make this happen. And back then we had a Kodiak toter home, Chevy toter home, and about a 40-foot fifth wheel trailer, and we had 1 Eagle chassis, and we had 2 360 engines. So when this all happened, we sold everything. We sold the truck and trailer, the car, the engines, because this was a J&J and we had an Eagle. So we were moving to J&Js. This is what we were doing, and it definitely caught us off guard a little bit, but we're naive. Like, oh, we're going 410 racing. We're going to go, win and do all this and that and try it. And, we went to Volusia that year, started the season out running. We're going to run the All-Star Tour, run for Rookie of the Year. And it was a rude awakening. The 360s, we were pretty good at. And you know how Volusia could be. You could blow up some motors in a
Oh
hurry.
yeah, yeah.
And we hurt an engine, or maybe we hurt 2 engines, and the pace you had to race at and how much we raced. It was eye-opening for being a family team and crew. These guys all work full-time jobs. So we were super naive on what was going to require, um, what it's going to take to be good and be competitive and do it the right way. So when that happened, we kind of had to reevaluate what we were going to do. And Becca Anderson, her dad, kind of took us under his wing early on, and he helped us out for that first season for some months. Had some issues, and then Rob Hart came into our life, and Rob Hart is the one that really straightened out our program. Redid our shock program. We had Pro Shocks then. They're obviously the most popular at that time.
Yeah.
Replumbed our cars and changed our fuel systems around, got our engines running really well for what they were, having older Mopar engines. And he really got us on the map and got our shit squared away where, all right, we're maximizing everything that we have today.
At the same time, you're obviously growing as a driver too, because you go from the micros to the 358s to the 410s, and it's probably a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? It's probably like a new level of competition for you, having to try to figure out, how do I keep up with these guys? These guys do it in their sleep, and they do it very well.
Yeah. I never saw a sprint car till I was 13, 14 years old. So me knowing the history and learning the history, when I raced micros, we played the Outlaw game, driving up the road all the time. So I knew, those guys, but I didn't know anybody else. You know what I mean? Like I didn't grow up watching the sport. It was also new to me, and Volusia was so fast, and the air was so cool, and you're making so much power there, and it was just all eye opening. And the All Stars at that time, Tim Schafer and Dale Blaney were on top of their games and could beat anybody on any given night when they were on. They won, I would say, 2 to 5 outlaw races per year when they were on their game, plus winning 10 plus all-star races a year. So like I got to learn a lot from those guys and get my butt whooped and not winning races and losing a lot of races just because they're that good. So yeah, it was a big learning curve. The quarter midget ranks, I was successful. The micro ranks, I was successful. Felt like we had pretty good success early on with the 360s with URC. And it was just an eye opener that this was a different level, and it was going to take more dedication, more preparation, and shit had to be right. You could buy whatever, but it had to be right, just to compete.
Did you have anybody that, as a driver, that maybe kind of took you under their wing, on the All-Star deal? I know that Dale Blaney's a super nice guy. Tim Schafer's as laid back as it get. Did you have somebody that you could, fall back on, or kind of said, hey, David, maybe if you did this or this to help that growing curve, speed up a little bit?
So Brian Kavanaugh took us under his wing quite a bit. How we got all the cars and engines from them. So we raced out of his house quite a bit. Was around him quite a bit. But Schaefer was like did his own thing. He was never really around the team. He just showed up and raced, and you never really saw him too much. Where I felt like I had a really good relationship with Dale, and I think I learned a lot from Dale. And maybe he didn't like just physically tell me, and verbally tell me, just watching his craft and becoming good friends with him and George. George was an awesome guy. Definitely miss him a lot. And Dale at the racetrack. But yeah, Tim Schafer was more aggressive, and I would say Dale Blaney was more methodical. And I don't know why, but I was definitely an aggressive driver when I was young. But I definitely like that methodical way, or trying to do things different, or find a different way to get it done. And that just kind of was the route that I took.
So you spend 3 or 4 years on the All-Star Tour. I think 2012 was your last year. And then I thought I knew, I've lived this stuff my whole life. So, but I want to say 2013 was that the year that did Bill Rose get hurt, or did you just end up getting in his car, or am I missing the whole game here?
Yep. So the whole thing with the 89G, it was called DDR Motorsports.
Okay, yeah.
It was Dave, and Ray, me, my dad, and Ray. And they told me that they're giving me 4 years like college. So we ran 9, 10, 11, 12. And after
Okay.
that, we had to figure out what we were going to do. And that year was our last year of the 89G car. We were going to I think we were still going to run the All Stars, or we're going to do a pick and choose schedule. I really forget the exact moment there, but Bill Rose ran Volusia. He blew a left rear tire, and it smoked his arm, and he broke his arm. And
That's right.
that happened. The seat was available, so Ray contacted Bill and was like, "Hey, I'll continue to pay my crew chief, which was Tyler Swank at the time, and I'll buy the tires, and David will drive your car for free." And that's what we went and did. And we ran, right after Volusia, we went out west. Did Chico, had a good run at Chico one night. Had some top 5 runs, some podium runs at Hobstadt. I know we ran on the podium. And then once we got back to Eldora, which I think was May by the time we got back there, um, Bill kind of was better and could race again. And we brought our 89G car back out after Eldora, and we kept the 6 on the car. He probably, thought
Okay.
he probably thought that we were going to run better and earn more points. So we kept the 6 on it. It was the 89G stuff, the J&J cars, the Mopar engines. So we won Fergus Falls, Minnesota that year, Outlaw Show. We won our prelim night at the Knoxville Nationals. And that year was 2013. And that was officially the year I was Rookie of the Year, but I actually did not run a whole season. I actually got sick with mono after the Knoxville Nationals, and I missed the whole West Coast swing. You get like an enlarged spleen and stuff like that, and I was deathly sick for a while. So
Okay.
I was the only one to run for Rookie of the Year that year. But we finished the year off, with the 6 on the car, gave Bill as much points as we could, and that's how 2013 ended.
That the preliminary win at the Knoxville Nationals, and I actually jotted just a few things down here. It was a Wednesday night. It was a qualifying night, and you actually won that race. And I remember I was there, and I just remember, man, they've really got that. And I wasn't paying attention. I might have known there, but your name was still developing. But to me, that was something that said, okay, this kid can race. And I think that was kind of a breakout statement for you. What are your thoughts on that? Am I missing the boat there?
No, for sure. So 2012, we were able to sneak out that World of Outlaw win at Talladega. So that was a big shocking win there. In 2013, we didn't run the All Stars, we didn't run the Outlaws. Well, I guess we ran the Outlaws technically, but it took a long time to get a win. And I think when I won Fergus Falls, it was my birthday, June 23rd. I think it was like June 22nd, is my 21st birthday, and was able to get the job done and win there. And then not long after, August comes around and we won our prelim night. So that was definitely a cool moment. And I think that year was definitely a big momentum deal for us because, I think we had 10 or 12 top 5s that year. And to me, that was a big deal then, especially for us and what we were doing. Felt like we led laps, we made dashes, and we were competing. A lot of the times, not every night, but we were competing a lot of nights. So I think that was definitely a big momentum builder. And after that season, we closed the doors with the 89G, and we took some parts and pieces we had left and joined forces with Tom Leidig with the Phoenix Racing 59 car, and actually started 2014 with him with the 59 car, just going to do a pick and choose schedule. But the whole backstory of all that was, yeah, it was 2014. Yep. So 2014 started that year, but 2013 I ran for Rod Tyner at Trophy Cup, and it went well. Should have won my prelim night. We had our motor blown up at the start finish line. Me and Tim Kading were literally side by side. Couldn't tell who won. They gave TK the win that night, but had a successful Trophy Cup, and I was like, man, I want to really run the West Coast swing, you know, for you. You know, he's like, oh well. I don't have an engine, I only have a 360. And this guy named Frank Manafort, don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's a guy from Connecticut, owned a big construction company. He ran midgets with Brady Bacon. I don't know if you remember Brady Bacon ran the national midgets with the 76 car. It was a beast car. Pretty
Yep.
much only a beast car. Well, that was Frank on that team. He bought me a brand new Kistler engine that we were going to use to run the West Coast swing in 2014 to start the year, after Volusia. So we're like 59 car, Volusia, Devil's Bowl, Ocala. We did that. Then we flew that motor out to California, did the West Coast swing with Rod Tyner, and we won Merced in Rod Tyner's car. And Dennis Roth's cars ran second and third. So it was 83, 83, 83 on the podium. And that's when TK got fired from the Roth 83 car that season. And when that opened up, I got the call from Dennis and Todd, and put me in the Roth car in 2014. And the first weekend was Eldora. The first night, our throttle linkage fell off running fourth from like out of the dash. And the second night, we won. And then the next weekend at Wilmot, my fourth race, we won as well. So we won our first 2 out of 4 races. And I felt like that was the turning point in my career, that was like, all right, this guy's for real. He's in good equipment and won right away. And I felt that put me on the map to show in the right situation, I can make it happen.
Let me ask you a question. A lot of stuff's happened in just a matter of 3 or 4 years for you. You talked about playing a PlayStation or the World of Outlaw game, not knowing anybody except maybe the 5 or 6 big names on there. You've been all over the country. You've been in some great cars. And all of a sudden you're getting to know people and you're getting educated about not just the World of Outlaws, but how good the cars are in California, Pennsylvania, the Knoxville area. Is that all part of the education system for you to learn, okay, this is what I can do here, this is what's out there, this is what's going to help me?
100%, and I think sometimes being naive on that was a good thing, because I didn't really work myself up. I just went there and raced. And oh, Trophy Cup's a big race. They say you got to go out and do it. I got opportunity, and I went and did it. So, yeah, it was a big learning curve, and learning respect, and gaining respect. And yeah, it was definitely a fun road. And Rob Hart was a big part of that. Tyler Swank was a big part of that. Brian Kemanaugh was a big part of that. And then, just growing as a driver, and, in all of that, I drove the Buffalo Wild Wings car a couple races, drove for Rod Tyner and learned from him. Learned a little bit from Bonsai, because he was the crew chief when on the 59 car when I was there. Learned from Sonny Kratzer. That was the crew chief at the Roth car when I was there. So, you just learn bits and pieces, and just try to gain this knowledge and learn what these people did really good and what these people did really bad. And yeah, it was cool. I had to bounce around a lot, but I felt like every opportunity was the right move, and luckily it all worked out.
2014. Let me look at one thing here real quick for you. I just got to check this. I got to make sure. I think I might be. Yeah, no, that's the year. 2014. There's a race called the Williams Grove National Open. It's a pretty big race out there in PA land. And you're in the Beef Packers car the same year we're talking about. And you win the Williams Grove National Open. Now, I was there. I remember this because this was, I'm like, damn, these gravel kids running again. Like I said, no disrespect to you, but, the new guy still, for me, like I said, I'm an old goat. So I'm not, it just shows you how old I am. But, and a little bit of controversy towards the end of that race. And the reason I bring it up is because I was trying to find a way to implement this question in there because I actually looked today on MapQuest. Where is Watertown, Connecticut compared to Central PA?
Yeah, so we talked about the story a little bit to start, right? That was the first racetrack I ever been to in a sprint car. So they're
Yeah.
about 4.5 hours away from each other. It was a place that we raced at with URC, and I did some local racing there my first year in 410s. And yeah, a lot of family always comes to those races. And with the Roth car, we put ourselves in position to be in front of that race. And on a restart, I was running the top. Stevie Smith was running for Fred Raymer at the time, and he passed me around the bottom. And I really got my shit together, started hauling ass around the top, and was closing and was right on him. And Stevie was letting off and running the bottom really nice. And I was getting to his right rear on every exit to the corner and just couldn't get by him. So every time I'm just trying to run it a little bit harder and try to get outside of him as fast as I could. And, I don't know if Stevie slowed down more one lap or I just went a little bit faster and I just clipped his bumper. It probably didn't even scratch his bumper or mine. And he got turned around and spun around and he kept going. And excuse me. And yeah, the caution never came out, and there was 4 or 5 to go, and I held on to win the National Open. And the biggest win in my career at that time by far.
Oh
And
yeah.
I couldn't enjoy it. I didn't feel good in victory lane about it. I was very apologetic in victory lane. It wasn't on purpose. You never want to, we've learned how to race in quarter midget racing. If you wrecked a guy or chopped a guy or dive bombed a guy that you had no business, you got put to the back. And that's how we grew up racing. And I feel like it was a good thing to show you right and wrong. It caused a lot of drama in quarter midget racing, but I think it just taught you at a young age, what to do and what not to do. And yeah, it was one of those things that wasn't on purpose. And I still get booed at Williams Grove because of it. Stevie Smith was one of the you know Mount Rushmore drivers from Pennsylvania, really well regarded, and it sucked. It sucked for everybody. But after that race, when I won, I got the call from the Roth guys, and they told me not to be apologetic. You're raced out there running your hardest, and you're out there to win, and they didn't fault me at all for it. So everything was a learning experience. I still feel bad for it. Again, it wasn't on purpose, and again, another learning experience, at an early age and learning how to mature and doing all this. I'm out on the road, no parents or family. And, at 21 years old or whatever I was, 22, you got to be a man and adult and learn how to handle yourself. So that was another big learning experience in my life.
Yeah. And the thing I was going to mention going into that was being you're so close to Connecticut, you never really ran a lot of the local PA. You were never really like a PA posse member, were you?
No, no.
And that's what I found ironic is close to the central Pennsylvania area that you grew up, you were always URC and then right on to I'm running Fort Tans, I'm going to Volusia and I'm traveling a little bit. So that's why I think it was just ironic that as closest to where you live, you never have been a posse guy, except maybe the years you drove the CJB car. But
Yep.
does it matter at all, really, or not? But so
Yeah.
anyway, so you finish off the year with Roth, and I think you guys had I want to see here in 14. I don't remember, but I think you had planned on going back to them in 15, even in your victory lane speech that night. You said you were trying to prove your way to get that ride for 2015. It looked like things were coming together well. I read the story today. That's the only reason I know it. I don't remember it. But
Yeah. Yep.
instead you end up with Destiny Motorsports in 2015. Is that correct?
So the timeline is we won 5 races that year. 4 of them were in a Roth car, one was in Rod Tyner's car. So had a pretty successful season there. And went into 2015 with a lot of momentum. Um, we had the 2 crew chief changes. We started with Sonny Kratzer. They sent him home. Then I had Troy Welty finish out the year. That's who I won the National Open with, was Troy Welty. And then we were starting 2015. Troy went back to NASCAR. So we had Sonny back in 2015, which was an older guy. So we brought extra crew guy in. So we're going to have 4 crew guys, Sonny Kratzer, they decided to put the safety cages on those KCP cars, and then we had KW shocks that we decided to put on where we had FKs the previous year, and those KW shocks were not normal. They had very big shafts on the right rear and left rear. They were not a traditional sprint car shock, and we started the year off and weren't that great. Struggled a little bit. Didn't win, any races to start the year, and we'd run the West Coast swing. And then once we leave the West Coast, we go to Devil's Bowl, and I show up to Devil's Bowl and get the call that I'm fired. They wanted to move on and go another direction. And at that same weekend, at the same time, Craig Delansky got fired from the Destiny Motorsports car. So we pretty much did a ride swap.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so I went to the Destiny car for Devil's Bowl, and actually Roth had Kyle Hurst show up. I don't think they hired Craig Delansky right away. They put Kyle Hurst in the car. Kyle Hurst ran a couple races like, hey, I want to go back home. And then they hired Delansky to finish out the year. And they did like 2 weekends and weren't good. And they got sent back home, and the car got taken off the road.
Okay.
And I was with Scott Bennick, and our second or third guys changed every week. Guys quit, brought Richard Salisbury and Rod Laraway to the team because we needed guys and pieced together a team throughout the year. And that was a very trying season. For some reason that car seemed to be cursed. Rick Rogers spent the money, had all the best equipment, and had all this stuff, but that car could not win a race. And I felt like we were competitive and we had some good runs. We had 2 podiums, I think, or 3 podiums, and I just had to work really, really hard to just be decent. And yeah, luckily I, started talking to Barry Jackson throughout the year, and they're kind of looking at trying to do something different next year. And, thankfully they still had faith in me after not, winning a race in 2015, which was a bummer, obviously, for the history of my career. But, yeah, they decided to hire me, and, that was the next big thing for my career.
To me, I think as I look back over your deal, I think you and Barry and Chad Clements and those guys, it it's solidified not just you as a driver, but Chad as a car owner. And we've always known that Barry can make anything go fast. I have so much respect for Barry. But those 3 years you guys were together, you guys won a lot of races.
Yeah, we did. Year one, we won 9 races, very fast, third in points. The year before, I did run the full Outlaw Tour, but in 2 different cars, which is pretty abnormal. But the first year, I had an opportunity to race the full World of Outlaw Tour with the same car was CJB. So, you can
Okay.
look back at my career, but truly 2015 is when my career started and actually had a legit chance. And, we were able to win 9 races and run third in points. And, we had a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement for the future. And, yeah, and then, 2016 or 2017, um, you know, was a dream season. We won 18 World of Outlaw races that year. We won 20 overall. We won our prelim night at Knoxville. We won an All-Star show at Volusia. We got the perfect 500 night, which hasn't been done since Steve Kinzer in 1992, and winning, quick time and winning the heat and winning our feature. Leading the Knoxville Nationals, blowing an engine up, big heartbreak. And I believe 2017 is when we won our second National Open. So just early in my career, a dream season.
And like I said, like you said, let's put it that way. 2017 would probably be a season that anybody would dream to have. 18 wins, and I think second in outlaw points that year. Is that correct?
I think I actually ran third in points that year, crazy
Okay.
enough. But yep, I think
Yeah.
I ran third.
I wanted to jump back to this, and your memory is awesome. I want to tell you that, David, because my notes here, I was like scrambling all kinds of stuff done, and I knew I can't believe it's been since 2017 when you guys racked up the perfect score at the Knoxville Nationals, and I can't imagine the heartbreak because nobody was going to catch you guys Saturday night. I was working for Donnie. You know that. You know where I come from. That deal was over. You guys were gone, and unfortunately, I think, did you break a crank on that thing? If I remember right.
Yeah, something failed in the engine. I think it was a crankshaft, I believe.
Yeah,
And that year, for whatever reason, the track was wet and fast and wasn't
yeah,
really technical. And we were just hauling ass around the top. You know what I mean? We were just flying around there wide open, and it was like qualifying laps. You know, so
yeah.
it was a different racetrack that year. I don't know if it rained or what, or there just was wet. I wasn't really sure, but it was a very, very fast track that year.
Yeah, and that's probably one you'll probably put it this way. At least you didn't have to dwell on it too long. You were able to get some redemption on that one a couple years later, which we're moving forward here too. So you spent 3 years with Chad Clements and Barry and those guys, and then I know you end up going to drive for Jason Johnson's team. And
Yep.
tell us a little bit about how that transpired. And that was for 2 years, 19 and 20.
Yep. So, a lot of things happen, right? And we could talk about it more here later in the show, but I did a lot of bouncing around, and it wasn't really, in my opinion, any of my doing. Did I want to or anything like that? But 2018, winning 18 races, we only won 5 races the following year, and there started to be some doubt, and a little bit of doubt in my ability, and that's trying. And when you're only a 20-something-year-old kid and you got a car owner that's been doing it a while and a crew chief that's very seasoned, they're gonna believe what they believe. And sadly, we still ran third in the points, but only won 5 races, so it was a big disappointment. And just at the end of the year, it was just at the point where you know it just had to change, right? A change
Yeah.
had to happen, and Chad and me and Barry are great. We have a great relationship today, and Chad's asked me to drive his car several times since then, and Barry has been very good to me, and very sincere with everything, and I have the utmost respect for them. So it was just a heat of the moment thing, and Jason Johnson passing. They weren't really sure what they were doing, and I was gonna be the first driver to be in the car to go run full time again. I believe Macedo drove it at Knoxville the previous year and did some other stuff.
Yeah.
But I was gonna be the guy to take the ship and drive it again and be back on the road.
Yeah. So you get in the Jason Johnson ride with Phil, and I think Bobby was still pretty active with the team back then.
Yep.
I don't remember the other crew members at the time. They've had some great help along over the time. But going back to the 2017 Knoxville Nationals, just 2 years later, and you're in great position to win that race again. And tell us a little bit about that Saturday night of the Knoxville Nationals when you finally achieved that dream.
Yeah, so that was, I'm a lucky guy, but that was another dream week, another dream moment, for a sprint car driver. This all stemmed back to Chili Bowl. I met Jeff Gordon at the Hard Rock Casino bar after the races, and I think he was there for a purpose. He was just, I think, just popping around. He knew Rico pretty well, but I think he was there for a reason. And we hit it off. And he's like, "Yeah, let's maybe do something. Maybe we could, get you a sponsorship for Knoxville Nationals, and maybe we could get you in a truck at Eldora because they're running the trucks every year at Eldora." I was like, all right, that sounds good. So they got Exalta to come on the car, and Bobby, we hand painted the car. It wasn't vinyl. We had matching shoes and beautiful suit and helmets and crew shirts, and did the whole 9 yards. Professional. And Jeff Gordon came to the whole week at the Knoxville Nationals with Mark Webber, the ex Formula One driver, and they had all the Exalta people there, and we won our prelim night, and I believe we weren't high point guy, but I think we were starting second or third, I believe. in the Knoxville Nationals, and was able to get the lead and lead a majority of the laps. And you know, I seen Brad Sweet win the Knoxville Nationals the year before, and in my opinion, one of the best finishes ever for a race. Nearly side by side, green, white, checkered. He has to hit the bottom. If he misses the bottom, Donnie wins. The Jason Johnson year and the Donnie Schatz, that battle was obviously very awesome as well. And there was a lot of bumping and banging there. But, Jason ended up winning by a little bit of a margin at the end. But like I just thought, all right, Brad Sweet got it done in dramatic fashion. Jason Johnson got done in dramatic fashion. Really, the 2019 Knoxville Nationals was a terrible race. It went green to checkered the second 25, and we won by a pretty big margin. And wasn't that exciting, but to compete at the highest level and to perform like we did with all the chips on the table, with all those people there. I thought that was another career defining moment for me. I felt like you couldn't add any more pressure to a driver than that week, and the team performed flawlessly, and I did my job as a driver. And, I thought that was my moment there to be great and achieve greatness.
And you guys definitely did too. And I know that's something I guess I never knew. You learn something new every day. Is that car was hand painted? I remember how beautiful it was, and so that's a testament to the team also. And I know the JJR guys always bring awesome looking cars and team gear and all that stuff. The Naturals every year they make it a business, that's for sure. So you stick with them through 2020, and I'm not sure how that all turned out, but you end up with the Todd Quirin car where you're at now. And once again, tell me a little bit about how that transition went, if you can. And sometimes if you can't, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be transparent. There's nothing to hide on it, and it's no fault on anybody's there. It was 2019. After that season, Todd offered me a contract to drive his car, and it was a pretty good offer. And how could I leave the 41 car after the season we had in 2019? Um, I believe we ran second. If not, we ran third in the points. We won over 10 races. Won the Knoxville Nationals. Had a bunch of momentum going into 2020. And then 2020 was probably everything that could go wrong for me did in 2020. Winning that Knoxville race, Jeff Gordon was like, "All right, we're definitely giving you Eldora, and I'm going to give you 5 more races. So we're going to do 6 NASCAR truck races under Chevy, under Hendrick. We're going to have the 24 Jeff Gordon font on the car, Hendrick font, and you're going to go race for GMS, the #1 Chevy team at the time, and we were going to go into that season." Or they're going to put a fill-in driver, when I'm not racing the car for those 6 races. So Phil decides to start his own team with the Dietz Motorsports 14 car with Parker Price
That's right.
Miller driving
Yep.
the car. So all of 2020, we have Philip Dietz setting up 2 race cars every night with 2 haulers, and COVID hits. So
Oh
COVID hit,
yeah.
co-
Yeah.
co- COVID hits. We have no practice, no qualifying in NASCAR. So I show up to Michigan International Speedway, a 2-mile track, send you out and go. No warm up lap, no nothing. You're just racing. Go ahead out there. Good luck. And
Yeah.
that was stressful. And I ran 10th in my first career race. I ran around 18th to 23rd all race long. There was a late race restart, and I actually drove the car somewhat aggressive. A couple guys banged wheels, and I ran 10th. I thought that was an amazing achievement, good accomplishment. Get to go to run my second race in Kansas, which was one of the most fun weekends of my career. It was Friday night truck race at Kansas International Speedway, Saturday Lakeside World of Outlaw race, Sunday Springfield, Illinois Silver Crown race.
Oh
So,
wow.
so
Yeah.
I never drove a Silver Crown car in my life, and that was my second career truck race. Well, I crashed in the early stage 2 because at that moment I learned that that was my last race. So I went from 6 races down to 2. The Eldora race with the trucks never happened and got canceled the COVID year. So never got my
Okay.
opportunity
Yeah.
to race on dirt. And ran decent at Lakeside, ran second at the Silver Crown race to Larson from the back. We had no clutch, so we had to get a push start. Had to start dead last there, ran second. So I thought that was a great result as well. And then truly our car was that good that year in 2020. In my opinion, if I committed to sprint cars and Philip Dietz only had one car to work on, we're winning that championship, and nobody could change my mind on it. Like, even if I ran all those races and my average finish was what my average finish was, we were mathematically able to win that championship that year. So I forgot how many races I missed, but it was like 4 races or something like that. And we still ran 6th in points in driver points, but you're not eligible for point fund money at that point. But we still ran 6th in points and missed that many races.
Was 2020, if you had to do over again, would you do it different? And I know that's a hypothetical, but horribly bad luck with COVID.
Yeah, it's just I don't regret anything. I wouldn't do anything different because nobody knew COVID was coming. So it's not
Yeah.
Hendrick's fault, NASCAR's fault, or whatever to stunt my growth
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And if I never took that opportunity to try it, then I'm going to have the regret, like, oh, what could have happened? I just think some people have impeccable timing, and for me, the timing was wrong. It looked like it was right, and then it just kind of went to shit, and it was nobody's fault. And how could you tell a sprint car team, hey, I can't run all the World of Outlaw races, but I want to still race with you? A lot of teams would probably tell you to kick sand.
Yeah.
So they still committed to keep me as a driver and made it happen. But the sacrifice was, all right, now they're running 2 teams. Philip doesn't have my full attention when I'm there, but I don't have their full attention because I'm not there all the time as well. So it just kind of, not that it turned into a shit show, but it was like, it created friction, you know?
Yeah.
And I would still do the same thing again, because you just never know in the what ifs. And yeah, that's just how it went. I thought that was my moment to achieve my ultimate dream because, I love sprint car racing more than NASCAR racing. Hands down, it is a better form of racing. But that was my first love. That's where I learned to watch racing.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
where I grew up watching NASCAR. Right. I wanted to be Dale Earnhardt. I wanted to be Jeff Gordon, and I loved Dale Jr. in the Oreo car back in the day. Like, like that was my ultimate goal, and I thought that was my chance to do it. But again, it was another learning experience. It was another growing as a human, as a race car driver, as an adult, and just learn this business. And at the end of the 2020 season, Todd came with another offer, and he made it a little bit better. And it was a deal where I believe they were still maybe going to run 2 cars, and then Macedo was hearing these rumors, and he was able to bring a lot of funding to the team where I didn't bring much funding to the team. So for them, business wise, I think they liked the Macedo deal to keep them a little bit safer financially. So. I don't know if they would have fired me or not, but it was kind of just like a mutual thing, and I showed them the contract Todd offered me, and I said, "Hey, could you guys, come close to what I'm getting offered here?" And they couldn't, and you know, it was one of those things. It was like, thank you for everything, but I felt like this was the next opportunity for me to grow my name and grow my brand with Todd because you were kind of under the limelight of JGR and Jason Johnson Racing, and they had their own T-shirt trailer, and I had to only run a couple shirts out of there, and there's a lot of obstacles and things you have to deal
Yep.
with there. So I felt like this was the next opportunity for me to blossom even more.
Well, and you have to realize too that this is a business. not just for the teams, but for the drivers also. And I know the t-shirt deal is a big deal. That's not, sometimes it's a deal breaker. So, able to move forward with Todd that way. And obviously you're very transparent with Phil and Bobby and that whole team before you left too. So it's always nice to not burn bridges as you go.
Yeah, for sure. I had a good relationship with Phil and Bobby. We had a couple things that happened throughout the years with on the racetrack and other things, but I have a great respect for both of them, and feel like me and Phil are still friends, and but we got to compete against each other each week.
Yeah. So 5 years now with Todd, I believe. Is that right? Is this year 5 for those guys?
Yes, it'd be 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, this is my fifth year,
Yeah.
25. Yep.
So last year you I'm going to assume it was a dream of yours, but you were able to win that first World of Outlaw point championship. And how important is that to you? How fulfilling for that is for you? Not just you, but probably your whole team, your car owner, and the whole group over there at Big Game Motorsports.
Yeah. I remember winning the 18 races with CJB and going back and looking at the stats, and it was like, where do we need to get better to win a championship? And when Donnie was on his game and winning 20 plus races a year every single year and dominating the points, it seemed like it was unachievable. And Donnie started slipping just a little bit, and Brad was getting better. And when Brad dethroned him for the first time, then it looked like it was something that was possible to actually happen. Um, and we just kept building and building. And with JJR, I got closer, and then ever since I've been in the big game car, my first season we ran second in points. So we ran second in points 3 years in a row. And then we won our first championship last year. So, um, from being rookie of the year in 2013 to winning my first title in 2024, it took 11 years. It took a lot of butt whoopings. It took a lot of race wins, a lot of race losses, to learn what it takes to be a champion, and for it to all come full circle. Felt really really rewarding, and for me, I already won the Knoxville Nationals, so like that was the last thing, um, other than the King's Royal at that time. But we won the King's Royal last year, so it was kind of the last check on the box for me. So Todd isn't really a big points racer. He likes to win races and doesn't really care about points that much. So to me, I know for a fact that a Knoxville Nationals is more important to him to a championship, but I think a championship is number two, and we've been able to win a lot of big races for him, and we're really focused on trying to win a Knoxville Nationals.
That's what my next question was. I actually had Todd on as a guest here probably 6-7 weeks ago, and he said the only thing he wants to win is the Knoxville Nationals. We're less than 2 weeks away from that race now, and I know that you guys have everything you need to do those things. The finances, you have the crew people that you need, Cody and all those guys behind you. Does that bring added pressure to you to get that race won?
I mean, it's always pressure. It's a real bummer. Our little history we have at Knoxville. We were closing in on the front two guys that won nationals, and a fuel line got knocked off from debris, and we ended up blowing an engine. And then the following year, we led a lot of laps, and it was running around the top real good. And then with like eight to go, I believe, or maybe a little bit less, Donnie goes around the bottom and passes us and beats us. Then the following year, we crashed on our prelim night. Started 22nd, ran second the following year, so ran second 2 years in a row. And then last year was kind of a disappointment. We were just off a little bit for the Knoxville Nationals. So as far as pressure, I mean, I've been doing it long enough, and I give it my best effort every night. And what's meant to be is meant to be. So, as far as pressure, I mean, I feel like I don't feel any different. Do you have a little bit extra butterflies for the Kings Royal and the Knoxville Nationals and certain events at certain times? Maybe, but when you get out on the racetrack and get settled in, it's just another race, and Yeah, I feel like this year we have had a lot of car speed at Knoxville, and just the last 2 years, the heat race has been our Achilles heel. So if we do what we do and just get through that heat race, I don't think there's any reason why we can't get it done.
Yeah, and that's that seems to be the biggest challenge for everybody out there is those darn heat races on their qualifying nights. And I say those are the 10 best races of the year. Wherever I go, you get 5 heat races on Wednesday, you get 5 heat races on Friday. As a driver, I wouldn't want to be sitting in your guys' spot because you know what's on the line. I don't have to tell you, but as a fan, man, do I get excited about that stuff too. So yeah, and so with that coming up, that's going to be exciting. So, one other thing. I want to talk about the importance of Cody Jacobs for your team. Cody's a very outspoken person, but Cody also can back it up with not just the results, but he's a pretty smart guy too. So, talk about working night in and night out with Cody Jacobs and the rest of your guys.
Yeah, so Cody, I got to know quite a bit in my racing career when we ran the All Stars. We ran a Jack Hounshield shop quite a bit, and got to meet Cody there and race with him. With All Star stuff, he helped Paul McMahon and Book and some other guys over the years, and I got to know him. And yeah, he was working for Big Game when I came over to this team, and yeah, we've got along good, have a good respect for each other. He's a fiery guy, a very strong-minded guy. He keeps things pretty simple. He doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, and we got something really good right now. And my whole career I've been trying to build and build to be with a team for a while, and try to create a little dynasty. And I feel like we are right now. And yeah, Cody's outspoken, but he's just extremely passionate about sprint car racing, and he's passionate about the history of the sport. So him seeing the All Stars go away, where his two idols, his dad and Kenny Jacobs, put their whole careers in the All Stars, for that to go away definitely hurt his soul. And for a competing series to go against the World of Outlaws, that doesn't make him happy either. So he's been outspoken on things, but at the end of the day, it comes out of love and passion for it. Is it maybe the nicest way to say it or the right way to do it? That's on you, and that's your opinion on how you want to take that. But he is who he is. If you met his family, that's the way he's been bred, and that's the way the Jacobs roll. And take it or leave it. And me and him just focus on trying to be fast, consistent, do our jobs to the best of our abilities. And at the end of the night, he never tells me, "Oh, I should have ran this harder," or if I crash, he said, "What are you doing, you idiot?" He never does that. He knows it's hard to drive a sprint car, and he wants that car to roll in the box every night. And if we don't run one spot better, you know what I mean, it's not a big deal. We'll get it the next night. So I feel like he has a great respect for that, and let me do my thing as a race car driver, and I feel like I let him do his thing as a mechanic.
That's what I was gonna turn it around on you. Have you ever told Cody, "Hey, we should have done this or that," or do you guys have that mutual respect where everybody gives 100%, and at the end of the night, we got what we got?
Yeah, we're fiery. There's times we'll spout back at each other, and I would say we've been racing for 5 years. There's maybe a handful of times where we're probably like, man, we shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? But we're at the point now, he knows and I know. Like, I could come in and he knows the car sucks or I messed up. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even need to say that to each other. And all that
Yeah.
does is create problems. And he'd be like, yeah, man, hey, I'll get that better. The car did not go in the corner. Or I'd be like, hey, yeah, I screwed up qualifying. I should have, not cheated the cushion on entry. Or, man, I screwed up that restart. You know what I mean? So I feel like, we're there, right? We're there where Ricky and Donnie were, where, you know,
Yep.
Ricky knows that Donnie tries to fix the car the way he drives it, and he's manipulating it, and he might look tight, but he's actually loose, and like that's kind of where we're at, where he could see the car well and understands what I'm doing as a driver, and it just helps out a lot.
One other thing I had jotted down that I wanted to, I don't know if you have an answer for this one, but it's a question I wanted to ask you. You have notoriously been a great qualifier. when it comes to qualifying to start the night, I don't care if it's just a regular World of Outlaw show, if it's at the Kings Royal or the Knoxville Nationals, where those are probably your two most important laps. You've always really done well in the qualifying. And why do you think that is? Because you went from CJB to setting quick time, the 41 car, and now with the 2 car. So it doesn't necessarily say it's the car. It doesn't necessarily say it's the driver, but it's the driver definitely got something to do with it. Why do you qualify so well?
Yeah, I just don't have the right answer for that. But quarter midget racing, you learned how to be smooth and carry momentum. You couldn't dive bomb the corner because it was going to hurt your exit. So I feel like Paul McMahon, Darren Pittman, all quarter midget racers, I feel like you could kind of tell our driving styles a little bit from that. And then you look at the outlaw kart guys and the California guys. They're just throwing slide jobs, even if there's nobody to slide job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just diving into the corner because that's just their kind of style, right? So, I would say I don't know. I even I 1 year with the 89G, we had Mopar engines where nobody else had Mopars, and we were quick time at 3 out of the 4 outlaw races at Eldora. With that equipment. So I don't know why I've been a great qualifier, but in today's day and age, with how the format is, it's a huge advantage. A lot of the years where Donnie was dominant, they inverted 12 or 16, depending on if it was a 3 or 6 or 3 or 4 heat race format. So it maybe would have been a little bit tougher back then for me. But it just the stars aligned, and it's super important to be a good qualifier right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And anywhere you go with that. So I'm going to get a beat down from a lot of my listeners if I don't bring up just a subject. We were at Eldora Speedway a couple weeks ago, and you're as passionate of a driver as there is, and Kyle Larson's a passionate racer too. And you guys, you threw some wicked. It was wicked racing, and you thought maybe you didn't appreciate the way it went. And I'm just wondering if you. Sometimes words get said in the heat of the moment, and you don't get the opportunity to say what you really meant, and your words were kind of I thought they've been misused sometimes. And just if you would just tell us a little bit about what you were thought was going on there, and how everything went down. And if you don't want to, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, no, I'm cool. I was able to talk to Jeremy Elliott at BAPS and kind of air out some of what was going on with that story, but it really had not much to do with the feature race at Eldora. Did slide me and were some close? Yes, and I retaliated back with a big slide job back, and he did again to come to the start finish line to finish the race, but. It stems back from Huset's when we were there earlier in the year, and he slid me, and I about flipped my car over on our prelim night, and it's all points accumulated for the next night, and didn't really appreciate that. And you know, um, Attica, he was star on the pole, fell back, and it was running super aggressive and fell off the track twice. And Attica, when somebody about spins out or falls off the track, come back on, you can't see him. The wing's blocking his car, and so you're having to be super cautious to not crash. And these are all World of Outlaw points nights for us, and um, there's just not a care in the world for that. And I feel like that there should be some sort of respect there. And then you throw in, Cody was interviewed with the Chaz and had some comments on there. And they all weren't good comments. And, that fueled their fire to, I seen Kyle race differently towards me, and I truly feel Brad and Kyle are racing World of Outlaw races different than they do high limit races to make the Outlaws look less superior, that their drivers aren't as good or whatever, and they're driving at 110% or maybe more to try to prove a point. And I sense that they race us different, and you could tell and see. And then you throw in the disqualification at Eldora, and all that. And after me and Kyle talked, I thought right, and they were treating us different on the racetrack, and I just feel like I've never done anything to any of those guys personally. I've never trashed a high limit series. And at the end of the day, I'm the World of Outlaw champion at a points race event. I feel like that requires some respect. And I don't care if you're Dale Earnhardt or some 12-year-old kid. You know who the champion is when they show up, because I felt that when Steve Kinzer was the champion or Donnie Schatz was the champion. If you're going to run him dirty, they're going to spin you out or they're going to wreck you under a green flag. They didn't give a shit. They're not going to take it. So I don't care who you are. I think it requires respect. And all it's just hard racing is just, in my opinion, BS. We have a lot more on the line than them, and I wasn't getting that respect. And they're saying they're not giving the respect back because what things were said, but that has nothing to do with me. I'm my own person. Everybody on my team's their own person. So I just don't think that's the right way to handle things. If you got a problem, have a phone conversation, have a conversation in person, hash it out that way. But to me, it was blatantly obvious, and it sucks because I'm close with Kyle and Brad, but it creates a huge wedge in between anything we got because of all the other shit going on. So it's just a part of our sport right now, and I'm not going to back down to anybody. I'm confident in my ability. Cody's confident in his ability. Todd's confident in our race team. And we're going to fight and we're going to battle every lap, and we're not going to let people push us around. So if somebody does something dirty back, I'm going to do the best I can to be as close to them without wrecking them and sending the message back, because we're not getting ran over. And yeah, that's where it's at. And we're going to keep fighting. We're confident and happy with how the season's going. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what these next couple weeks bring.
David, heck, it's already been an hour and 20 minutes, and I told you an hour. And I want to say I appreciate you for taking that topic head on that I just hit you with. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask anyway, but we're just going to leave it at that, and I appreciate your input on that very much. I know you guys have a vigorous schedule coming up, that Ironman at Pavely for 2 nights, and then I assume, are you guys running the Cappy this year?
Yeah, that's the plan as of now. We didn't last year and kind of regretted it. So I feel like that's what we're gonna do this year, pending, weather or whatever. But I think that's what we're gonna do, and yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Did your guys get an opportunity? I know you were in Weedsport, New York, Sunday night. Got to be in Peabody, Missouri on Friday. Do you know? Did Cody and the guys haul butt back to Sioux Falls to the shop, or they just heading over to Peabody?
Yeah, just logistically doesn't really make sense. So our guys hauled ass to Worcester, Ohio, where Cody's from, and get to spend some days there with his family. And we'll go to Peebly, and luckily we have Scott Vogel's son that is kind of like our fourth crew guy that doesn't really
Yep.
work for us full time. And Taylor Queering, Todd's son. They'll bring a couple trailers to Knoxville, and they'll bring our Knoxville car and bring spare whatever we need, if it's wings or engines or whatever. So I think the goal and plan is to have that car sitting at Knoxville on Sunday for us, and bring it out to race there. And yeah, just logistically it's tough. Race on a Sunday night. You're not going to get to Sioux Falls till probably Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it makes it really hard. And Sioux Falls is a lot better area than we were before, but it's still far away from stuff. And it just doesn't make sense. Obviously if you're in Indy or Missouri or even PA or Ohio, but it's too much driving for the guys, and for what we were going to gain. It just wasn't worth it for them.
And for those that have never thought about it, you got to drive from Peabody, Missouri, up to Knoxville, Iowa, which is about if I remember right, it's 7-hour drive, 6.5, 7-hour drive up there. These teams, after usually it's 100 degrees plus at Peabody, get up there between 6, 7 in the morning. Some of them already have their Knoxville car ready to go that they're going to run. Others have to go to the car wash, try and get a few hours of sleep, and then race the Cappy, and then try to figure out what they got from there. So having that car for you guys there already ready to go, that helps Cody out. They might not have to wash. They can swap cars around and do the rest of it later on during the week. So just kudos to all the crew members out there too.
Yeah, that's a tough deal for us. Very tiring. And you're on very little sleep at not for the Capitani, but Laps are so important. Tires could change, tracks could change, and what happens in June when you're there isn't meaning it's what's going to happen for the Nationals. So, it's the sacrifices you make and do to get as much laps in preparation for the Knoxville Nationals, and I really think it's required nowadays. I just think the added laps and building confidence and just dialing in your package is worth it.
Absolutely. All right, David, I am going to let you get out of here. It's been an hour and 20 minutes now. And I just thanks so much for coming on. I know you got such a busy schedule coming up with Iron Man and Cappy and the Knoxville. Wish you guys and your team nothing but the best of luck, and appreciate you taking some time out to visit with me tonight.
All right, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lanny. Good luck with this show, and hopefully it keeps getting bigger.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks. We'll talk to you later, David.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. So that was some great stuff, and like I just got done saying, just appreciate David taking about an hour or so out of his busy schedule as he's back home spending some time with his family, getting ready for a hectic couple weeks coming up. Appreciate everybody tuning in again. I want to make sure I send out a special thanks to Krista Strand, who's always got my back when it comes to the technical side of this on some things and doing some cover art and things like that for me. Also, my twin brother Lonnie Nichols down in Sioux Falls. Lon does this stuff for a living, and he's definitely made my life a whole lot easier to getting this stuff out. Hope you're enjoying it. Like I said before we started, if you guys can take the time out to just give me a like, give me a share, give me a follow. I can't appreciate it more than I can say right now. So thanks again for tuning in. I've got an awesome guest coming up next week. You're not going to want to miss it. I promise you that. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. I'm going to be down at the Knoxville Nationals, too. If you see me down there, don't be afraid to give me a shout out. Till next week, everybody, keep the shiny side up.